Everyone present and correct.
Do we have anybody who has a declaration of interest? No. Minutes of the meeting of the planning committee held on the 17th of December. Let's see what's in there.
Okay.
Item 4 is chairman's report on urgent items.
We have neither of those, Chair.
And do you have any public questions in accordance with Standing Orders 42 and 23?
We don't, no.
Any letters of objection?
No, none of those have been received either.
Okay, so we're dealing with applications registered the week ending the 13th of the 12th, 24, 20th of the 12th, 24, and the 24th of the 12th, 24. And because we have somebody here to view, we're going to start with 5/20/24/2095, which is 49 Top Street Way. Please.
Okay, so that's page 10 of your agenda pack. Okay, so a similar proposal was considered by this committee in 2024, but was subsequently withdrawn at the LPA. Changes to the withdrawn application in this new application are that the footprint of the properties extend less rearwards and are set further away from the boundary lines to both sides. Due to the reduction of footprint, there are also larger gardens for the proposed properties, which now satisfies the requirements of policy 70 of the district plan, which the previous proposal did not. The ridgeline appears to be the same as the withdrawn application, but with changes to the window arrangement to the frontage. Observations from the previous application that are still relevant are currently on the good size plot is a 3-bedroom detached property, the detached single garage set back into the garden. The property was constructed circa 1950s and has signs of structural defects. Gated access track to allotments runs along the right-hand side boundary line, and the neighbouring property's single garage to the left-hand side property. Proposal is to demolish the existing property and replace with a pair of 3-bedroom semi-detached properties. The withdrawn application was for 4 bedrooms. The new properties are 2-storey with accommodation in the roof space with a 500mm higher ridgeline than the existing single dwelling, although of a similar height to the neighbours. There are no windows to the sides and a 7-metre gap across the allotment access track to number 53. Due to the positioning of number 47's flat roof garage, the potential for intrusion into the 45 degrees visibility zone for this property is removed. 2 parking spaces are provided to the frontage of each property, which is mostly hard standing with a small amount of planting to the outer edges of the frontage. It is acknowledged in the design and access statement that the parking provision is inadequate by 1 space per house, but is deemed to be acceptable due to the provision of on-street parking. This section of the road is not part of the controlled parking zone. This ends at number 42. Biodiversity net gain plan has been carried out for this application. This was not conducted for the withdrawn application. Due to the proposed loss of the front vegetated garden, which is to be replaced with hard standing, there is currently a net loss of minus 32.26%. The current hedgerow percentage is 0%, as no new hedgerows are proposed. As the net gain cannot be achieved on-site, off-site habitat and hedgerow units must be purchased. The off-site units required to represent a 0.0172 habitat units and 0.0072 hedgerow units. The site is not conservation area. So I have said, consider, whilst the committee have no objection in principle to the development of this plot, they do express concern that insufficient parking provision has been provided for the properties, and T11 of the neighbourhood plan and 40 and 70 of the district plan refers. They have added, should planning permission be granted, a condition should be applied to ensure the delivery of the off-street biodiversity credits is detailed in the B&G plan. There is actually an objection online from Hertfordshire Highways, where they state that Hertfordshire County Council, as the Highways Authority, recommends that permission be refused for the following reasons. Proposed access and parking arrangements are not in accordance with Hertfordshire County Council specifications and potential to interfere with the free and safe flow of highway users. Proposals are contrary to policy guidelines as outlined in the NPPF. and the Herts County Council Local Transport Plan. And also insufficient details have been submitted to demonstrate that the access arrangements adhere to guidelines in or are in accordance with the Manual for Streets and Place and Movement Planning Design Guide 2024. Proposal therefore contrary to policy guidelines as outlined in the NPPF and the the local transport plan. The county have obviously objected in a very similar vein to us. And also online, there were 2 objections from residents. 47 Top Street Way, which is the property directly to the left. He has expressed concerns over possible impact on his privacy from his back garden, given that properties proposed extend to 3 stories from what he believes is obviously currently 2. He sort of mentions also concerns about noise whilst the works are happening and music playing, etc. But obviously that's not a planning matter. And then also an objection for number 58 Top Street Way. This section of Top Street is already overpopulated. The addition of 2 dwellings will further compound the intolerable parking issues in Top Street, particularly as this development will take place in part of the road with no parking restrictions. Continual parade of builders' vehicles creates significant parking and road safety issues. They often result in blocked drives, pathways and visibility issues for occupiers leaving their properties. But yeah, obviously that is only relevant for a short period of time. Yeah. Okay.
May I ask a question? Heather? The green pathway, is that grass towards the allotment?
That is.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that's the access to the.
And is that people drive down there? Or is
I don't know.
Can I?
Can I answer?
Am I able to? I mean, I need to answer. Not frequently, but we have a JCB that delivers manure down there,
Okay.
which is quite a beast of a thing.
So it's wide enough for a car.
Oh yes, definitely. Why it has council vehicles go down it as well to go and do maintenance stuff. It's an occasional use thing, but it's used by vehicles.
When it last came before, the issue was the size of the parking. The core.
Yeah, so the concerns that we had last time were really in relation just to the parking. That hasn't changed. All that they have done is actually just kind of make the properties themselves like smaller and reduce the footprint so that they're further away from the boundaries. Nothing has changed in terms of the number of parking spaces suggested and the
But the suggestion or the view was that the size of the parking spaces is insufficient for a family-sized car. As I recall.
that I don't know that actually was kind of founded. If that was the case, then county would have highlighted that within their objections specifically to say that the proposed parking spaces are not sufficiently sized to meet the current standards, but they haven't stated that they are large enough.
But there are 2 parking spaces, aren't there, on the frontage of each property?
They're saying
And
that,
it's 3 bedrooms.
they're saying 3. Oh, yeah, they're saying you need 3 parking spaces,
They're-
3 bedrooms.
I think basically what they're saying is that it's, although I was concerned about the quantity initially, they're actually saying that they're concerned about their location.
For the
Because
front of the house.
Yeah, so the proposed access and parking arrangements are not in accordance with the specifications and have the potential to interfere with the free and safe flow of highway users. So that's where their concern kind of arises from.
I assume when they're going to drop another curve, that was their plan for the left-hand house.
Yes, I think so. So I
Yeah.
think actually, yeah, I think actually you can see it. So there are 2 dropped curves that you can see on there. I don't know whether or not it makes it a little bit tricky to view on the.
Be dropped all the way along.
So I think there will be 2 separate, I think, 2 separate drop curves.
It says curb something, I can't read it, so it's.
Why would the county council deem that to be
I'll say.
different? Yeah, I'd say, because isn't that the same with other houses down the Top Street Road?
Don't know.
They're coming out as steep curves as well, aren't they?
It kind of looks like it when you look on Google.
Yeah,
But a lot of them are like that, yeah.
A lot of them like that.
yeah. A bit. The parking on street and Top Street Way is horrible.
It is horrible. Driving down there is
Yeah,
really bad.
and a lot of people come down because our street, our Crescent, sort of goes down around the back of Top Street Way, and lots of people come down our Crescent because Top Street Way is just a bit of a nightmare, especially in the morning.
Yeah.
And if you've got a car coming down Top Street Way one way, then people have to stop.
Yeah, pull in,
So-
yeah.
Yeah. I used to use it as a rat run from Tilbury.
Where do you live, Alistair? Return the rut run.
So Heather, what's the position if obviously we're saying
Yeah, so I mean,
no
it's-
objection in terms of the build, but county have objected in terms of highways. So what's the
So-
procedurally?
really, it's entirely up to the committee whether or not they agree with what county are ultimately saying. I mean, initially, and you're quite right in saying, obviously, and I probably should have amended the wording there, is that the parking actually is sufficient now for the quantity of bedrooms, but they're clearly concerned about its layout and the positioning for it. So it's entirely up to the committee whether or not they feel that they agree. But if based on the observations of the room that they have of Top Street Way, this is the norm.
I mean, personally, looking along it, I find it quite difficult to be negative to having 2 car parking spaces per house in the front when pretty
So
much
many others do have, yeah.
at least 50% of all the others have parking spaces at the front.
Yeah. Oh, if I can say, yes, I mean, from living on there, yes, they have all that. I think the main concern that people were having for that issue around the car parking bit is especially when they're looking, they are from the existing position where, for instance, for people who are coming to the allotment and parking in front or what have you, that parking will go as well because you're having the driving off parking. So that will go. And then when you're reading about, there's an assumption that, oh, well, there'll be more on-street parking for the over amount.
Yeah.
You're going, oh, so that's a double whammy in terms of the capacity. And that corner is that actual corner itself is a notorious chicane. And it is always blocked to one-way traffic any time during that. So yes, you will remove some parked cars a bit on that chicane, but you'll be, it's the worst place.
Because at the end of our road, going on to Top Street Way, they introduced double yellow parking lines around the junction going off to the along Top Street Way, because there was such a problem with visibility, people parking near there. So when you're coming out Highfield Avenue onto Top Street Way, you couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
It was a real danger.
I've just actually done some further reading because this objection only went online literally today. I've just read a little bit more detail. So actually it is still correct that the size of the bays that are suggested, or as they say, scaled, are insufficient.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
looking up online at, on the planning application at St Albans for their previous planning application. The applicant will need to demonstrate that a suitable estate style vehicle can park on the proposed new hard standard parking area without overhanging the footway. HCC Highways requires a plan showing that a large sized vehicle can park on the hard stand area, which needs to be a minimum depth of 5 metres as detailed in the Herts County Council residential.
So it's the length of the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, does that not say 5.7 then?
Where?
4.9.
The bay is, but the piece from the building to the front of is 5.7.
Oh, yeah, yes, certainly.
5.7.
The actual middle line, the actual from the building itself right down to the.
So that distance there is 5.7.
Where's the parking bay?
It's 4.9, but it's not up to the.
That.
Well, if it's not, it's from there.
Yeah,
If that's 5.7, that's 4.9, then there's basically best part of a meter. It's
Yeah.
either there or it's
so
there.
it strikes me these might be, that one might be okay, but they look quite tight.
They also actually are saying that the size of the drop curbs are longer than they permit. So there are no dimensions shown for the proposed drop curbs. Scaled from the submitted plans, proposed drop curbs are longer, 7 metres, than HCC will allow for single dwelling. And parking bays as scaled from the submitted plan, but slightly smaller than HCC allows. This is policy 5 of the local transport plan.
So any of these are at scale.
Well, they have to be. They have to be, the drawings have to be scaled, correctly scaled for district council to accept them.
Okay,
It's a slightly mad one to say they're,
Technical.
on one side, they're not big enough, and on the other side, the drop curve's too big.
Yeah.
So I mean, you could, in a sense, if you don't feel overly strongly, you could amend the wording to say that, ultimately we have no concerns about the development on the site, subject to the applicant satisfying the requirements of Hertfordshire
highways.
Highways.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it could be that further information is then shared to justify, to satisfy their concerns.
I mean, it looks like there's a, if it's the size of it, it looks like there's a proposal they ought to be able to come up with, which sorts that.
I mean, the size of the properties are smaller now than the previous.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, they could sort of, in a sense, really slightly move the properties further back
I was just going to say that, yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the building line is much further forward than the existing building line. Property.
The other thing, which I don't suppose we can consider really, but I just thought I'd mention it, it's because with the Solum development, they're going to open up, when that happens, or they're going to open up the Aysgarth Close.
The access, yeah.
And then
It will be.
that will be a controlled parking zone as well.
Yeah.
isn't it? So I don't know whether that helps their case or hinders it.
I think what you suggested is.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Voting, do we?
Don't need to vote. No.
So Mike, are you going to attend the district council one of those as well?
I'm a dedicated site rep, but there are some limits.
What was your concern just out of interest?
On the original one, I raised objections. It was, as you can see, the building adjoining our pathway, it was right up to it. It was you can see it digged it out again. So that was one thing which has been set, it's now more realistic. As I say, if drive a JCB up there, they do wobble, and we have had instances of things going on. So it is more of a thoroughfare than a garden path. So that looks better. It is also, as you can see, the other bit was we lose parking spaces. So this idea about it's a nil impact, just because we don't own a house there, we do actually have people parking to use the amenity that is the allotment site. Where will they park? It's already further down the road. I mean, people are already parking down the road for other issues. And then finally, it was, as you can see, I was concerned about when you have cars coming in and out of that far right-hand bay. I mean, you're right up or more, or naturally cutting right across our front. So whereas I know other buildings have very little between them, by the nature of how it's set up, the drive, it is naturally taking cars out and across there. So there is potential, because they're stuffing it in, there's potential risk. I mean, it comes down to trying to stuff as much as you can in there. And it causes problems, so it sounds like the highways are the people which quite rightly are doing what's left of, I would say, the concerns and most of the residents around there. It's right, well, as you will know then, on that corner, it can become dangerous, and this is not going to do anything but the other houses next to them have single drive off-street parking. So they have ones and twos, and then suddenly this goes and doubles or more what's in there. But that's really what I was just, obviously what you've got today as well from what you gave me before. And thank you very much.
No, that's
I understand. Right, I now cycle through that chicane bit on the way back, yeah? It's okay, if you don't. But anyway, thank you very much for your time, your consideration. I appreciate it.
Bye now.
Oh,
Yeah, push.
cool.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. That's okay, back to the start
No,
now.
back to the start. So 5/20/24, 2100, 2109, 2134, the criteria. So we move to 5/20/24, 2036, which is 12-week Hampstead Road.
Okay, planning permission was granted in 2024 for an exclusive similar proposal to what is presented in this application. Changes relate to bringing a proposed lounge extension in line with the proposed kitchen extension, changes to the windows and the roof lights above the ground floor extensions. All other elements appear to be exactly the same. The original approved proposal is to, at ground floor level, extend rearwards over the footprint of the existing dining room and further across, but not the full width, with sections cut into both sides. The front is proposed to convert the garage into a store, add an enlarged porch along with the side extension to extend the utility and create a downstairs bedroom. At first floor, it's proposed to extend 2 existing bedrooms and add an ensuite. This is achieved by extending over the front ground floor of the front extension and partially over the new rear. There is a good distance to the boundary and the neighbouring property is set away from the boundary. Therefore, the possibility of negative impact is reduced. There is off-street parking for 2 cars. I still consider adoption, and there are no objections online.
Looks better, I think.
Yeah, it sort of looks more uniform, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Everybody's happy with that?
Yeah.
All good? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Vic. So 5/20/24, 2120. 2094 and 2126 criteria. So we moved 5/20/24, 2166, which is now Stuart Road.
Okay, planning permission was granted in 2024 for a similar proposal. Proposed amendments to the approved scheme are 2 dormer windows to the rear elevation, replacing the previously approved loft conversion. A side window to the east elevation to serve an ensuite. This window will be frosted with openers of over 1700 millimetres. Alterations to the openings on the rear and side elevations, an adjustment to the garage length to ensure it complies with garage regulation size internally, and a reduction of 15% side extension on the east elevation of the boundary. Relevant observations for the application site are: property has a certain style and character and is locally listed in the conservation area. Proposals at ground floor level extend rearwards by 6.5 metres to fall in line with the neighbouring properties, building line of number 11 Stuart Road, and in line with the detached garage at number 7, which is positioned in the rear garden, as is the case with the existing property. New garage to the side, which extends partially down the side, also forms part of the ground floor extension. At first floor, an additional bedroom and ensuite is added partially over the footprint of the new rear extension. A further 2 bedrooms, which will total 6, are to be added to the roof space, along with Velux windows added to the flat element of the crown roof. Roof space development is not visible from the street scene. Proposed design and materials appear to be sympathetic to the host dwelling and don't detract from its character. The site is set back from the road with an extended driveway across the verge straight pavement from the highway with good tree and foliage screening. There appears to be at least 2 off-street parking spaces and a proposed attached single garage. No tree works, and I say consider no objection. And there are no objections online, including from highways.
Good for me.
So it's 6 bedrooms, so how
Yeah.
many parking spaces do they?
That's lovely. Awesome.
Three would be, yeah, 3 would be
Three
sufficient,
with-
yeah. Yeah, because it's kind of basically 3 allocated spaces and half an unallocated, which is basically on-street parking, so.
They were
There's
houses.
no
for
parking
St.
problems
George's
down
School.
Stuart Road.
They were houses for St. George's School.
Were they? Which one were they? What, for staff that were there?
Yeah. Is that backs on to the
Onto the playing fields, of course.
Everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So move on to 5/20/24, 78, which is 1 Hamlet's Crescent.
Okay, proposal is to erect a new 3-bedroom dwelling attached to number 1 Talents Crescent. to create a terrace of 3 properties. Currently number 1 and 3 are repair as semi-detached properties. Development site is currently part of the front and side garden for number 1 Tunnels Crescent. Access to Finley Road is to the side. The design follows the same style as other properties in the street scene. Design and access statement references that there is no parking provision provided, as the house will be a car-free in line with the NPPF and encouraging walking, cycling and use of public transport. Although the frontage does appear to be hard standing, but with no drop curb mentioned, possibly due to the corner location of the curbing. Only cycle storage is mentioned, references made to no parking restrictions in the area and no evidence of parking stress. Therefore, it is assumed any vehicles associated with the property will be parked on the street. Due to the loss of garden, there will be a minus 90.05% change to the biodiversity on the site. In the biodiversity net gain assessment to be offset through the purchase of at least 0.15 off-street biodiversity credits. In order to satisfy trading rules, at least 0.06 of these off-street credits off-site credits must be medium distinctiveness peatland and shrub habitat or any broad type of high distinctiveness habitat. Native hedgerow planting will, however, create a 29.51% uplift in biodiversity of linear habitats. So I've said consider. The committee have no objection in principle to a new dwelling in this location. However, they do express concern that there is no off-street parking provision provided on the site and the applicant is relying on on-street parking provision to satisfy the new occupants' needs. Should planning permission be granted, a condition should be applied to ensure the delivery of the off-site biodiversity credits is the assessment. I've just said no, there were no objections online.
Can you drop down a slide? Because it looks like there's enough parking potential in front.
Yes, so so I think I kind of like stated it looks as if it's all hard standing, but the application itself states that there is no on-street parking provided.
It's not official because I suspect they wouldn't be allowed to have that as official street parking without the drop curb. But unofficially, I suspect you'll find a car park there.
Yeah.
And also, they're saying they're going to use bicycles, but the next people they sell it to might not.
I'm not sure, can you get a drop curb on the corner?
No.
No, you can't.
No, that's why
Yeah.
So Talents Crescent is, parking is all on-street parking.
Yeah.
So it's, flats. Lots of flats. So where you, in one block, you'll have, eight.
I think it's a mixture of houses and flats, isn't it? I think.
It is predominantly going down the left Medford Hill on the right
Right.
side, that is very close.
Right, okay.
And then on going round, onto Milford Hill, it's a lot of flats.
Okay.
Who obviously don't have parking.
Because these I think along here are all houses. I know one of the ex-councillors lived in Talents Crescent and she lived in a house.
There'll be some new cycleways going in Crescent soon.
But not until 2031, though.
What did you recommend?
So I've basically said no objection in principle to a new dwelling. However, we can only go from the basis of what the application is stating, that they're on the proviso that there is no parking. I mean, Councillor Ray is absolutely right. The hard standing on the front does lend itself to being parked upon. However, due to their location, what is stopping them from actually having that as a garden to have as an amenity space, and you can park at the rear? That picture there clearly shows that there's nothing stopping you from having allocated parking spaces at the rear. And you can use the front garden as part of your amenity space, offset the.
And put a hedge around it like the others.
It's more attractive to have a family garden in the back. Because parking from.
I have to sort of go from what the application stating, and they're very clear in that it is a no parking.
I'd be very happy with what yours for.
So they're going to split the garden into 3 then? Oh, so that's that.
Yeah, so at the moment, the whole site is part of the garden for number 1.
Right.
So they'll obviously have a divisional fencing or whatever down the centre.
What a
I like the way
positive.
the design they've actually put.
It is the right sort of housing which Harpenden desperately needs,
Yes.
which is
That's
small,
Yeah.
small houses
How
without.
many bedrooms will it be?
It's three, isn't it?
Oh, wow.
But
It's cozy.
Yeah, it's 3 bedrooms.
that's the sort of
Yeah.
housing that Harpenden desperately needs.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. And in the right area for that
yeah.
kind of thing too.
I mean, it looks like just a continuation of the existing property.
It does.
It took
It's not very
long. Yeah, exactly, you know.
They've actually added a window into the, what is the, now the middle property.
Yes. Yes, so there is, they've added, I don't know how they've added that though. Surely that the middle property's not going to change that much.
You know, they've just added it above the door though, haven't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's to make that from, add another bedroom to that one, isn't it?
Yeah. possibly.
It looks like a.
Oh, because it's their house, isn't it? Of course.
Yeah.
So as they do a terraced effect, then they like window in there. So.
Yeah.
Okay, happy with that?
I'm fine with it, yeah.
Yeah.
So we move on to.
Yeah,
Thing.
absolutely.
So just, somebody. Anything first,
No, I don't think it was tree works. The only application that I thought I would just kind of update you on is if you can remember a couple of meetings ago, we looked at the application in Pigeonwick, which is
Oh,
the one
yes.
that's on the screen. And I think we were a little bit sort of unsure, uncertain whether or not there'd
Oh,
be.
yeah.
Do you remember?
Individual layout, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. But I just thought, you know, for consistency and to let you know that they have got planning permission.
Right.
What did we say? I can't remember.
So I think we had no concerns.
Okay.
Yeah,
We thought it was a
but
bit
I think it was
strange,
just a
but-
little bit of a strange layout. There was an awful lot you can see here going on with the front, and it was like, well, actually, is this going to cause a loss of amenity to the property to the left? I think if you remember.
the road or,
Pardon?
was it over the road or am I getting muddled up with another one?
So,
I was saying, oh, I know, yes, I'm.
so it's at the very end,
Yeah.
kind of in the hammerhead of the
Yeah.
Pigeonwick.
Comes out, doesn't it? Pause.
Yeah, and then I think there was only one other one which I was going to let you know about. Oh, yes, just kind of really just to let you know. Do you remember Mr. Hardy of Morton End Lane? Do you
Yes.
remember, you know, he's finally got planning permission.
Okay, yeah. What was that one for again?
So that was for, it was on the property that was right on the very, very end of Morton End Lane where it sort of kind of curves round.
Two bungalows.
No, so it was kind of
It was a detached bungalow.
That's it, and Mr. Hardy came and presented to us, so the first one was a very much.
Yeah.
Then they resubmitted and we had no problems with it, we were quite happy with it, but district still refused it.
Oh.
And then they tweaked a little bit more so that it looked very much more similar to the neighbouring property and they finally. got planning permission.
Yeah.
Good.
Very try it.
That's it.
Yeah, terrible.
That's it.
Good.
Meeting closed at 8:03.
Thank you very much.
I just need to